The reason why messaging is so important to nail is on the receiving end as a prospect, my inbox in my life and my voicemail inbox, my LinkedIn DMs, it feels a lot like Times Square in New York City. Things are coming at me from everywhere. The average person sees hundreds of ads on a daily basis if they live in a city. The way that we can punch through is to provide more relevance in that message. And if we can supply that relevance for the rep and remove the effort, the cognitive load of thinking about what to say to our particular persona or people in a particular industry vertical, we can get them 80-90% of the way there, and they're more likely to take the action that we want. I think the hardest part with messaging is it's created by people that are actually not going to be using the messaging, nor have they had customer conversations. So the typical mistake is marketing or enablement sits in a silo, they create some persona-based messaging, they put it on a deck, they create a campaign, and now as an SDR or account executive, there's a couple dozen different steps that happen between I pick up the phone and prospect says hello, what do I say next? So one of the best things that you can do for messaging is to create what I call a messaging team. So instead of having just marketing or just sales or just product make the messaging, you want to get a couple of your best reps. You want to get a couple of your best sales leaders, a couple people from marketing. If you have an in-house consultant or expert on that persona, we're going to get a team together of 8 to 10 folks. Those are the people that should create messaging, and then sales will make that messaging sales ready, sequences, talk tracks, etc. So the components of a good message is, let's take a typical persona. One of my clients sells into contact center leaders. What we want to think about is what are the typical priorities of a contact center leader? What are the current solutions? So status quo, how do they get the job done now? Problems, and then aspirations. The priorities is where I'm going to focus the most right now. A contact center leader wants to essentially do one thing. They want to reduce cost to serve. So the irony of a contact center is you actually don't want people to contact the contact center because that costs a lot of money. You want people to self-serve. So I want to be able to arm the rep with the talking points in what are referred to as customer voice. So when they talk to a contact center leader, you don't want to say, we have a full, comprehensive suite and dashboard to help you manage your contact center better. You want to say, hey, when we speak to contact center leaders, one of the big things that we hear is they want to reduce cost to serve, but they can't figure out why customers are calling into the contact center so they can prevent it from happening. How does that resonate with you? So we're creating talking points that get the prospect to talk about themselves and their situation by demonstrating that we understand their world. So we're not going to lead with product, we're going to lead with customer voice. The reason why you want to segment up front is the more work you do to segment on the front end, the less work you have to do on the back end to customize the message. So to give you an example, if we use the contact center leader persona, a contact center leader at Nordstrom in a retail setting is very different from a contact center leader at Mercedes. Mercedes is a very different product. We might even be dealing with car dealerships in B2B, whereas Nordstrom is dealing with the everyday customer that can't figure out how to do the return. So you want to really segment. So part of it is persona. If you're selling large deals across multiple industries, you want to take it to that industry level. And essentially what you want to do is get a message 80-90% of the way there so that as a sales rep, I don't really have to think about what I'm going to say to this individual at this particular type of company. I can spend that time instead figuring out how I'm going to tailor it to that individual specifically. So I don't want to figure out what the talking points are, what I'm going to say. I want to figure out what's going to resonate with this specific individual. That's where I want to spend my calories. So with messaging, there's a couple of little hacks that you can do to upgrade messaging pretty quickly. The reason why you want the messaging to be sharper and more relevant is that 80+% of buyers, when pulled by Gong, believe that the sales reps they speak with don't actually understand what they do on a day-to-day basis. One of my best clients, they sell cybersecurity solutions, and you know what they do? They have 3 consultants on staff. One is an ex-CISO at Coca-Cola, and they have these people on staff to help run the messaging by them. The second thing that you can do is literally workshop with your best reps. Don't workshop this with the entire sales org. You're going to take the best reps, the people have to close these largest deals that have actually spoken with persona, and you're going to workshop what that messaging should sound like. Third thing that you can do is run fireside chats with your customers. This is something as a leader that you would want to help facilitate. So you could run a 30-minute fireside chat where as a leader, you're essentially picking the brain of your ideal persona. You're asking them questions. Your sales team can attend that, and maybe they throw questions into the chat and you run some Q&A, you record it, and you pull messaging from there. Lastly, this is the most amount of work, but the underrated thing that I see is we're recording all of these calls in our call recording tool, yet we never go back and extract the insights from conversations with customers. So instead of starting messaging from scratch and thinking about what the customer cares about, go back to the actual calls that you've recorded. with those individuals and extract some of the common themes from those conversations, and you're gonna use that to sharpen up your message. Another very underrated part of outbound is thinking about the offer. A lot of times the offer is, I want 15 minutes of your time. There isn't anything that we're promising the prospect in return for their time. And prospects are starting to get really desensitized to that. Rain Group's got a stat that buyers feel like 58% of the meetings they attend are a complete waste of time, and I bet if you really pulled people, it's probably even more than that. The way that you reduce the risk in spending time with you is promising something in return. I'll give you an example. One of my customers, large e-commerce platform, what they do is a free website audit. So literally what they'll do with a prospect is they'll look at their website, they'll look at the checkout process, they'll look at how much time it takes for a page to load, etc. And the thing that they promise the prospect in return for their time is, hey, I'm gonna show you 2 or 3 things that you're doing that is making you lose sales to your competitor. Or I'm gonna show you 2 or 3 things that are gonna help you increase your conversion rate by 20 to 30% on the checkout page. So think about what is it that you're giving the prospect in return for their time. The second example I would use is another customer. They sell a outsourced chat solution. So they'll basically run the chat on your website. What they did is they actually mystery shopped 200 e-com businesses, and they analyzed everything from like the response time, their hours, how they respond to email, how quickly they respond. And they basically put together this report, and they would reach out to people and they would say things literally like this on a cold call. Hey, Will, it's Jason with so-and-so. I was on your website, and one of the things I was alarmed at is it took me 24 hours to get a response from your chat team. Oh, by the way, again, it's Jason with so-and-so. You got a minute for me to share the reason for my call? So when we can open with a problem because we've already researched and experienced the brand and spent that effort, a lot of that will help the message punch through when you're doing outbound.